This is a biomechanical analysis of sitting on the toilet. This stand-to-sit movement is related to occupation and functionality of everyday tasks, such as toileting and bathing. The motion that is performed when sitting on a toilet is a fundamental pattern of movement for humans that can be transferred to many other occupations seen in ADLs and IADLs, such as picking items off the floor and getting into a vehicle. During this closed chain motion, both lower extremities are participating, with the feet remaining stationary and weight bearing throughout. There are 3 joints involved in the task of sitting on a toilet. They include the acetabulo-femoral joint, the tibial-femoral joint, and the talocrural joint. They are also commonly referred to as the hip, knee, and ankle joints. The hip joint is a ball and socket, and the knee and ankle are hinge joints. Starting at the hip joint, the position being standing stationary in front of the toilet, descending motion begins by way of posterior translation of the hip in the sagittal plane, causing hip flexion. The muscles attached to the hips serve as stabilizers for the pelvis and knees during this movement. As a result of hip flexion, stretching of the hip extensor muscles occurs. The muscles involved in order to create the movement of hip flexion include rectus femoris, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, tensor fascia lata, sartorius, psoas major, and iliacus. When performing a movement that requires a strong base of support and is greatly impacted by gravity, such as sitting on the toilet, it is important to acknowledge the importance of secondary muscles like abdominals and low back. These muscle groups create stability and allow the lumbar to remain neutral. The primary abdominal muscle assisting when performing this motion is the transverse abdominis, and the primary low back muscle assisting when performing this motion is the erector spinae group, which includes the spinalis, longissimus, and iliocostalis. With the lumbar in neutral, and as the pelvis continues to tilt forward, the body continues to shift downward by way of knee flexion. Dynamic movement of the knee causes lengthening of the quadriceps muscles on the anterior compartment of the thigh. The primary muscles involved in knee flexion include biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus, gracilis, sartorius, gastrocnemius, and popliteus. To sit on the toilet, the major working muscles and joints are the hip and knee, but there is one last joint that is playing a role for the body in lowering onto a toilet, and that is the ankle joint. This role includes dorsiflexion, which is when the top of the foot moves towards the shins. The primary muscles involved in dorsiflexion include the tibialis anterior, the extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Though it is not normally seen, the foot is in dorsiflexion when we're standing, and this allows us to remain upright, safe, and stable during the motion of sitting on a toilet.